Okay, just because something is an expressway in Fairbanks does not mean that there are not traffic lights. And this is not the only one.
No.
So that's one thing we wanted to share with you. And the other is we are staying at Pioneer Park, and we're going to talk about that a lot in a minute. But folks, we have talked about the fact we carry 8 1-gallon jugs with us so that we can supplement our water. And this is a perfect example. This morning, we were able to go over to the water spigot, fill up our 8 1-gallon jugs, and add 8 gallons of fresh water to our tank.
Guess what we're doing tomorrow?
And we didn't have to move the RV.
No.
We didn't have to try and connect a water hose that was long enough. We weren't, it just makes it handy. Do you want to fill your entire tank that way? No. But there have been so many times where, especially like at national parks, when we're staying outside of the park,
yes,
that we can go into the park, into the campgrounds or wherever, fill those jugs up, and then that tops off our fresh water.
And if you have a pass, particularly a senior pass, you can go in anytime. If you've bought a pass to get your family in for it, they're good for a week. So,
or the National Park Pass will let you in, but yeah, you can do that.
But if you've had to buy a pass for a
or
week.
There are times that, like, we went to a visitor center in Michigan,
yes,
and we asked at the visitor center, we said, we have some gallon jugs, can we fill these up with water? And he said, just gallon jugs? And we said, yes. And he said, okay, there's a place around at the side. But he said, we have RVs coming in here wanting to, well, it was a small little community visitor center. And so we were able to get our gallon jugs filled, whereas if we'd carried the RV, he would have said no. So anyway, that's just one of those little tips that we don't talk about real often, but it really comes in handy.
Yes.
Okay, we are staying at Pioneer Park, and this July of 2024, it is $12 a night, and we chose to stay here instead of the free place because it was pouring down rain. It had rained on us. It took us, a couple of hours or more to get here, and it had rained the entire time, and so the other place you're parking on grass, and so we decided to come here.
It's kind of slick,
or you could get stuck, and so we decided to come here. And when the sun came out yesterday afternoon, folks, this is a fun place, and very family oriented. You can bring your dog and walk around, and
ride your bike.
This morning we rode our bikes through before a lot of the stuff opened up, but it's called Pioneer Park. It's, obviously a history kind of a...
And there's a great museum.
Yeah, and we want to talk about that. The two things that we've really done here, well, just walking around, riding our bikes, walking. We rode the little train, and it was just $3 for adults, $2 for kids or seniors, and so it was well worth it. It does give you a double loop around, and then it's just fun. It reminds you of when you were a kid. And then the other thing was the museum, and we want to talk about that for a second. Guys, just coming and walking around and seeing some of the historic buildings, some are recreations. It's just a fun place, and it's been seeing all the RVers in the parking lot this morning. There were a lot of people doing their walking around the complex inside. And you can also now we did bikes this morning before it got crowded, so that it was just easier to get around. But in the afternoons it's filled up, and then we're here on a Thursday night and a Friday night. Last night they had karaoke. Tonight they're having wine tasting, and so the parking lot gets really full of locals as well as RVers. And one other thing, there is potable water it's kind of at that main entrance. There's a spigot sort of near the bus stop out on the main road. So the museum, one of the things I really liked about it was, we've been out, and that's why we're being, but one of the things I really liked about the museum was it wasn't just one topic. It was very eclectic. It had linotype machines. It had dog sleds. It had kayaks, canoes. Had dredging equipment. Had an old car.
Photos of famous people like Will Rogers and Wiley Post, I think.
Well, and
journalist.
And it just had some gold mining kind of equipment and stuff. And it was old tin containers that food and supplies used to come in. I mean, it was just varied, but they had it grouped. And folks, the thing that we've really been impressed about with this Pioneer Park is that the museum was free. They do accept donations and ask for donations, but the museum was free. Entrance to the park is free. The train ride, as we mentioned, is just
it was $2 for us
and $3 for adults.
We're here at the Alaskan Pipeline. 800 miles of pipe that extends over 3 mountain ranges.
And I watched a Modern Marvels about this once, so it just is fascinating. It's elevated for several reasons. One, it allows wildlife to move freely. Another is the freezing and thawing does not affect it as much, and that's one of the reasons why it zigzags, is to allow for that expansion and contraction. And folks, this is just, I mean, we're at a roadside pull-off that is 6 miles north of Fairbanks, I think it is, or 8, something like that. But it is so worth the drive out here just to get a glimpse of the size of this thing. It is massive, and they have displays and interpretive center here and everything. And it starts up at a bay in the Arctic Ocean and extends all the way to Valdez. And if you're old enough, you remember the Exxon Valdez. That's because that was the terminus of the pipeline. But folks, this is one of those things that, while you're here, you really need to take advantage of coming out here and seeing this. And man, God has blessed us with a beautiful sunshiny day. It was pouring rain yesterday, so we picked the right day to come out here and explore this. But just a fascinating stop right here at Fairbanks.
And another thing that's going to interest all our viewers is it was completed in 1977. What else happened in 77, you may be asking? I graduated from high school.
Bum, 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 bum.
This is the Large Animal Research Center at the University of Alaska.
Fairbanks. And the animals they do research on are the musk oxen, reindeer, and wood bison.
And they have done some on caribou.
Folks, this is just part of the journey. We got here an hour after the last tour. And so we were able to walk around and see the musk ox. And so we're pleased about that.
Yeah.
But if you're here, the tours are at 10, 2, and maybe noon. So look that up before you come out here. We thought we'd be able to just walk around, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
But
the tours are $15 for adults.
And it looks like it would be great, and the money's going for the University of Alaska Fairbanks, so, that would be awesome, but you do what you do when you're there. One other thing that we did yesterday was we visited a fish hatchery, and it was amazing. Saw some of the biggest trout I've ever seen in my life, but It's just kind of a visitor center. You go in, you read, you look at the information, you see these giant fish, and it's really interesting. I will say that for the South Central region, the regulations are so confusing.
Yes.
It's almost like every pond and river has its own exceptions. For the for the northern region, it's pretty cut and dried, straightforward. I don't know about Southwest. We're not going to be there, but the South Central is just.
If you're in this pond, this is. You can catch these, but not these.
Or you can use these hooks and not those. These fish can be this size, but not that size. Or this pond is catch and release. Or this stream, seriously, I saw one. This stream from the 0.5 mile marker through this, the regulations are one thing. You know, I get it. They don't want it to be overfished. I understand that, but as someone who doesn't live here and wants to fish just kind of all around, I'm trying my best to follow the regulations. I'll say that. But the hatchery was well worth the stop. And this is, July 12th.
Yeah, probably later. No, 12th.
July 12th. And so days 33, 34, somewhere around in there. And I am so glad we took the downtime before we came to Fairbanks.
Yes, I am too, very.
Because we were gone all day yesterday and pretty much all day today. And so, you know, we're glad we were rested when we got here.
Yeah, and yesterday was laundry day and shopping day. The Walmart here is wonderful.
But we had a lot that we had to do.
Yes.
And so, anyway, we're going to move down the road a little bit tomorrow and have a couple of days to kind of rest up before we hit Denali. And okay, good morning on day, I believe it is 35, something like that. And we left Pioneer Park yesterday, and one thing we want to say, we're thankful Pioneer Park is there, that they allow us to park on asphalt, etc. It's $12 a night, and the park is fun. But our second night there was a Friday night, and they had a wine tasting that went late. They had a live band that we could hear. And lots of people that had imbibed that were parked by us. So it was kind of a long night. So we had planned to, and we did move down to Quarry Road. It's at mile marker 285 as you're heading toward Denali. And I'll show you a picture of this in a minute. But just to let you know, we've had a couple of other minor repairs, and we just want to be kind of transparent and let you know that that's part of the journey. Has really nothing to do with being in Alaska, I don't think. I think it's just part of having an RV and maintenance and upkeep. But the light over our kitchen sink had started flickering and gone off. I actually had replaced one other light a number of months ago. And so when we were starting on this trip, we have a different light that had kind of flickered once or twice. And I thought, you know what, before we leave home, I'm going to order another one from Amazon and have it on the trip with us. The one I thought I was getting it to replace is still going. So, but just to let you know, these are really not hard to do. It's just a white. For ours, it's a white negative wire and a black positive wire. You cut those, crimp them together, and shut the power off and all that stuff. But the only difference is, and I'll show you in a second, this is the one we took out. The one that I replaced it with, the one that I've gotten off of Amazon, is a little bit wider, a little bit brighter, and the on-off switch is white instead of black. And then yesterday, before we left Fairbanks, we while we were at Pioneer Park, our propane bottle I just turn one on so that if the light on the refrigerator comes on, that's my notice that the tank is empty. I turn on the other one, and then we get that one filled. So we got it filled. And folks, when we bought the RV, I had wanted the pigtails that come off of the regulator to have a pressure guide. I thought that would be so neat. I realize now it's not. It's unimportant. But I had put on new pigtails that were in a metal, the hose was in a mesh of metal, and I had caught a whiff of propane, and then I stood there for a minute and I actually could kind of hear like the propane running. And so I took out some sudsy water, and sure enough, there was a leak. It wasn't where it connects. It was where the part of the hose that turns to go on, between the hose and that part that turns, that's where it was leaking. So it was nothing, it's not a part of the hose you can repair. Thankfully, I had kept those old pigtails. And so, yeah, that's part of the trip, because with a cover over the propane tanks, every time you take that on and off, those hoses are moving slightly. As we're driving, those hoses are moving slightly. So the fact that that hose went out after 5 years, I'm not complaining at all. I'm just thankful. And that's just kind of a reminder of, sometimes I look at that giant box of stuff that I carry around with me. But I had the supplies, I had the metal stripper, the wire stripper and the crimps, etc. to replace the light. I had the extra pigtail, I had the yellow tape for propane, etc. Everything in there. But that's just kind of part of the journey. And the light took 15 minutes to replace, the pigtail about the same. So it's no big deal, but it's just part of the travel. And if you're looking at RV travel, I want you to realize this is part of it. That 30 minutes doing that while I'm in Alaska, it's okay. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed our time here in Fairbanks as much as we have. And next episode,
Denali
National Park. Thanks for watching Two Tired Teachers.